There's one.
Hi, everybody. I am super excited about our guest today. I don't even know what to say about her. She is one of my longest time friends. She was the first adoptee I knew, and we talked about it. And we were roommates. We knew each other in New York when we were teenagers. What to say. So I'm going to just leave it there and more will be revealed. And here is Shari Geitzenauer coming to us from Arizona, the beautiful Arizona.
Yay.
Welcome, Shari. I'm excited to see you
Hi.
as well.
Yeah, good to see you and hear you as well.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, me and or Sarah and I go back a long ways, and we have a lot of history together. So to be on this show right now is kind of mind blowing and such an honor. I mean, wow. Sarah, you've come such a long way.
As have you. I mean,
We're part of the good team now.
Yes.
I mean, we are like family, all three of us, but I mean,
Yeah,
I do. I feel sometimes over the years when we've talked and I would feel your fear about something, I would actually feel that, like understand how,
yes,
just we have a lot of history, a lot of love.
A lot of love. Whenever you guys were together, I could feel that. I love it.
Yeah.
And none of us live in LA anymore. We've all left.
Oh, you did,
Yep.
Louise. I didn't know that.
All
Where are
three of
you
us.
now?
I'm up on the Central Coast. So 3 hours north, like Morro Bay area.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well,
I know.
yeah. So so do I start? I don't
Yeah,
even know
tell us your start from the beginning.
Okay. Well, this morning I kind of, well, the last few days, I'll lie. I've been kind of reviewing it. And this morning I was like, well, where do I start? And I'm like, well, start when you were born and go from there, right?
Yes.
Um, okay. So I was born in, I believe, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, but then brought to Philadelphia in a hospital called the Deborah Hospital, so I'm told. And I was placed there because I had a lot of physical ailments. I had like paralyzed legs and kind of deformed. They were kind of like knock-kneed, and like I needed later on special plates in my shoes. But the ailments went away by the time I was 5. I had a lot of heart problems, kidney things. I had to take huge horse pills because my kidneys, my liver weren't functioning properly. I had some issues that I needed the hospital for.
Do you know
Yeah.
what the issues were a result of? Was it?
Yeah. My birth mom was 14 when she had me. So there was a lot of complications. Imagine, I mean, I see 14-year-olds now.
Right.
They're teeny weeny.
Yeah.
They've got teeny weeny little hips, poor little things. They're just so
They're not
scrawny.
developed. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was where life started for me. And so I was in the hospital for a year. And then after that, I visited many foster homes and like things of that, because I wasn't, I guess, easily placed because I had a lot of physical ailments. So, and what I was told is it was a little bit expensive, it needed, so I wasn't adopted till I was 4. I remember going to several different locations, and I was remembering this morning, I think I was around 3. I was out with this old lady and I loved her. And I actually cried when I thought about it, because she probably was the biggest amount of love I ever had. She was so pure, but she couldn't keep me because, she was too old. And I remember visualizing the station wagon. And when I saw that station wagon, knowing the times, it meant they're coming to pick me up again and bring me somewhere else. And I was screaming and crying. And I remember seeing my little bike with the tricycle wheels, the training wheels, and crying like they were picking it up, putting it in the car. I'm like, no, because it meant I was leaving this sweet old lady. And I felt love from her. And I have been to several other places, but they were kind of gross. They had no business fostering children. I look back now and go, wow, ew, what a bunch of creeps. And it wasn't pleasant. So I was finally adopted at the age of 4, one day before my birthday. So I turned 4 the very next day. I was super excited because I was like, yay, I'm going to be adopted. And I remember like this happiness. And they picked me up and I was chatty and they gave me all my favorite foods. I love grilled cheese. I loved chocolate pudding. I was so excited. I couldn't stop, putting the chocolate pudding, like when I was eating it all over my face. I was happy. They gave me tons of presents. That made me even happier. And there began my journey with this family. My mom couldn't have children. She wanted children so badly. My dad kind of went along with it, like, okay, you want children. I had an older brother that, when I moved into this house, he was already adopted, but from another family.
Okay, so he was adopted too.
He was adopted too, but from another family, like 5 years older than me. And he was just fragile and wounded. I remember having a lot of compassion for him, and kids would beat him up in school and stuff. And I'd always be screaming at the people beating him up because we'd walk home sometimes together. And hence started my whole path of wanting to save everybody and justice.
So were you, the two of you were close? You and your brother?
No, he was not close with me. He did not know how to be close. He was kind of, and he was an idiot.
Wounded too.
Mm-hmm. He was.
He too was adopted and had his issues. And
yes, and so he was very wounded. So, but I remember those early days of where my needing to save people came from, when watching the kids beat them up, and I'd be screaming and like wanting, just it hurt me,
Now, were you guys in New Jersey at this point, or
That's
were
what I was going to ask.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, we moved to New Jersey. We were all in New Jersey in a little town that was very humble, and you walked like miles to get to school, and I think back now, like, you would never let your kids walk that far to school on their own. We're like, no way. But that was just the times.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah. And where do I start with my mother? My dad felt very absent. My mom was very not well. I'm looking back, and
were they older parents?
Yeah. For I think they were like maybe 10 years older. Like maybe my mom never talked about her age, but I'm gathering they were like maybe early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
40s.
Which is older for then, especially.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And my mom is a whole story in itself. I mean, she was not well. She was extremely wounded from her childhood, and never dealt with anything. So I was definitely used to almost take her stuff
like a fix.
No, like a
punching bag type thing.
Punching bag.
Mm-hmm.
Both, This started also my journey as well. It was, you know, I talked about it in a blog recently, but I had a long struggle in my childhood. My childhood made me, however, into what I am today, but it was not an easy childhood. I was starting to run away at the age of 8. And then afterwards was taken out of my home around the age of maybe 13 or 14. Like, why is this girl running away? And then put into the court system. And
How did they, who came to take you? Did the school notice or teachers or something?
well, the thing was, is when I really, like, it was like, there's a problem here. And there were some teachers that kind of stepped up. There was a social worker in school that said, I want you to meet with your mom and talk things through. And I had run away, right? And I'm like, I don't want to. And she promised me, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. I'm here. I'll take care of you. When my mom came into that office, my adopted mom, she clearly had no idea what she was dealing and froze. And I ended up running out of the meeting. You know, it was like, this is a monster, you know? And she just froze up. She was petrified. And I basically never went back home again. And that was when I was 13.
So where did you go? Did you go into a foster home, or?
I didn't go into a foster home. I went into what they call the children's system,
Right.
which was well, at first I went into what was called a GIN shelter, juvenile in need of supervision. And there, people always feel sad for my story. I go, no. This is where I started to, you know, I started to accelerate. I really started to find, like, they really took every single gift of mine and celebrated it, whatever it was. Like, I love to cook. I was obsessed with cooking, and they go, oh, you're amazing. And I like to cut people's hair, and they let me cut everybody's hair. And, you know, we made little video. It was where life started for me, I feel, you know. And but what happened was, is I started talking to one of the counselors there about my childhood, and she had to tell the you know, whatever, the headquarters, you know, and they had to press charges. And yeah, and I did not want this. Isn't it funny how we want to stick up for the people that and I didn't really talk about my story, like, publicly, really, until I knew she passed. That's why I wrote that blog when I knew she had passed. It was like out of respect. Isn't that crazy?
That's so common to take care. And you're a healer and a protector anyway, but it's so common.
It's so common among adoptees to look out for everybody else but ourselves.
Yeah, as I'm gathering from all your interviews, wow, I'm getting a piece from every single one. Anyone I listen to, I'm like, I get something huge from. So yeah, so I had to meet her in court and things like that. It was frightening.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where was your brother at this point?
Yeah,
he left home when, like, because he was 5 years older than me, and I didn't hear from him for years. And then randomly he'll, like, go, hey, it's your brother, you know, and just kind of randomly find me and, you know, call up, and you're like thinking you're picking up the phone to, you know, your friend from down the road, and it's like, hey, it's your brother, like, hi. Well, again, he was my adopted brother from his family, and that was that. He kind of disappeared and reappeared whenever, you know, randomly. So
so you had to see her in court. And where was your adoptive father at this point?
Exactly. That's what everybody over the years have always said, like, where was your dad in all this? And it was like, I don't know. I don't know. You know, he checked out, he would show up, but he was kind of like the guy that came in and everybody liked and schmoozed and, you know, made things nice, made jokes in the courtroom, you know, and with, like, the people, you know, and she was just this kind of cuckoo woman. And I basically stayed in this system till I was about 17, where then they allowed for me to go with another kid in the system and get a little apartment. and get jobs.
At 17?
Yeah. I wanted to be a chef, so I worked in kitchens at the time. And I was obsessed. I loved it. It was hard work, but and so I began to just take care of myself. It's funny, people think I'm, for some reason, like this spoiled girl. I'm like, if you only knew. No, I am not. Spoiled is not my story. So yeah, no, I started working I was already working at 14, really, but I was fully surviving on my own and paying rent, and since I was 17. And yeah, and I started working on myself, and going to self-help things, because I did, when I was younger, have a problem with drinking and drugs, of course, and I kind of thought that everything was my fault. So at the age of 25, I met with her to make peace, because I was the bad one. I was going to make peace. So I went there and we started to talk, and she kind of charged at me to attack me.
Oh my goodness.
Like
and I
physically?
Thought, yeah. And I looked at her like, you got to be kidding me. Like, really? Like, I'm bigger now and I'm taller than you, and I have years of anger towards you. I'm going to kill you. It was just like, what? And
you left her, you were her, whatever.
Yeah. And I did a lot of healing for a lot of years around her. And I understand a lot what was happening with her. Although we don't need to be besties, it's like I have passion and I did a lot of healing there, but we don't need to be best friends, So I basically didn't have anything to do with her after that moment, and I realized, this isn't something I can fix. This isn't something that I did. I'm not bad.
Right.
And I unravel a lot of that bad stuff. And I still have to have conversations with myself around it.
Yes.
Like, okay, remember who you are. You're not bad. And you're not perfect, but you're not bad. So there is me at 25. And then, I moved around the world. I got married. I had a very, what would be called on the outside cool life. I lived in London, and it was a very hip, cool life. But around the age of 28, I had, I guess, a nervous breakdown, if you want to call it that. And I always was kind of doing spiritual work. As a child, I was very connected to God. I had a very strong connection to God because I had to. Mm-hmm. And it's how I got through. And, I just remembered this memory yesterday, and I can't believe I remembered it. I remember my mom was very into, my adopted mom, like going to psychics and healers and stuff like that. And which was a cool thing because it made me open, opposed to, afraid of that. And she said to me when she got back that she was so excited to tell me that my grandmother was with me.
As in her mother or your biological grandmother?
My biological mother's mother was with me, and I knew it. I knew it, and I've always known it. She kind of was there, kind of with her hand, just guiding me. Mm-hmm. And this is how I got through. My connection to spirit, my connection to God, my connection to the spirit world was strong through this. It's how, like I say, how I got through. And so I don't know why I'm telling that story, but I feel that it's important because it was how I identified my whole life was through the spiritual realm.
Can you, speaking of like your biological grandmother and what did you find out about your natural mother? She was 14, but what else did you know? Did you know anything else? Were you given information?
I was given information. Go back. So when I was growing up, the good thing about my childhood was that it was always transparent where I was from. I was adopted. There was no shame in the household about being adopted. It was a wonderful thing. And I've heard in this show, it's like, yeah, you were chosen. But it was just, there was no, and I appreciate that it was never like weird or icky, to the point where, but when I was very little, I was adopted and then shortly baptized afterwards. And so I was confused with the two words, adopted and baptized. So I remember going to a friend's house and go, I was adopted yesterday. And the mom pulled me aside and said, don't you ever say that out loud again.
Oh my God.
And
What?
Yeah, because it was like dirty and secret.
Who's this
That's not
kooky?
good. Yeah, that it was like a friend's mom. And I thought,
apparently she didn't get the memo that you were chosen and adoption isn't.
Exactly. But I was even as a child, I remember thinking, that's weird.
You say that, and I have a memory of a parent telling me to, not brag about that. It wasn't something good or something. And
I told you I got made fun of on the playground, and then I punched the kid for calling me adopted.
I like that about you, Sarah. I cried.
Oh, I just got confused and stayed in my head like, is this a bad thing or good thing?
Yeah.
So,
and you were equating baptism. Like, so they were like, don't tell anyone you were like, you thought it was the baptism.
Yeah, like I got, because they happened at the same time. I was getting those two words confused.
Those are big words for a little girl,
I know. I was 4 or 5, something.
Gosh.
Either one, And when that memory happened. So yeah, I was told that my real mom was 14. I was told, listen to this, that I was 100% Italian, and later on I found out that's not true. And I found out later on that I'm actually half Native American, but it was bad in those days.
Yes.
It was like taboo. And I'm thinking, Native is the way to go now. Like, that's a cool thing. People are all lying to say they're Native, or wearing dream catchers or, whatever. And it was shown to me, like, that in those days, going back a few years, that, I was like, wow, that's intense. So I always identified with being Native in my heart and soul. And, as well as Italian, I love food and, but, so I know that there was shame. Shame was in my fabric of my being, and like shame about my skin color, because I was always a little bit darker, and people were saying, they're so dark. And like, I had brown eyes, everybody had blue eyes, and all that jazz. And dolls weren't made with brown eyes, They had blue eyes. And my mom, at least, she tried to get dolls that had, brown eyes like me. My name was a little strange. It was Shari. It was spelled differently, But it was funny how that was the concentration of, but it was deep in my fabric. And I now know it was like the shame. And I was told that I was given up for adoption. It was like hid away by the grandma, like, I don't know if New Jersey or wherever it was where they were from, but that's where I was brought to, because the grandma kind of hid me away. It was a secret. Hence, I never felt bad about finding my mom. I was really complete. I know she had shame. If I come, hi, I'm your daughter. Yeah, I'm like the really painful past.
Oh, for sure. 14 is like, I'm sure she was made to feel so bad.
I never felt any connection with my mother, like my real mother. Later on, I felt with my father, but never with my real mother, my birthing mother. So, yes.
Oh no, I was just it was just interesting. Nothing. I'm just taking it in. Did you? But you weren't. So your father, what made you feel the connection to him?
Because when I started working with, later became my teacher, who was Indigenous from New Zealand, a Maori healer and teacher,
Mhm.
I started to feel my ancestry, my roots. I started to go, well, who the hell am I? If I'm not this little, hyperactive, scared little girl, yeah, I started to feel who I really was coming alive in me, like fast. And I started to feel a lot of those indigenous roots and, ancestry.
Which you already had. I mean, I really believe we have that, right? The
Yeah.
generational pull
Yeah.
to who you are.
But there's a lot of things I would just love to share, but I'm just trusting whatever comes out is meant to come out. But um, our ancestry is everything,
Mhm.
That's why I just love what you girls are doing, It's just, I love
Mhm.
it.
It
It is.
explains my penchant for the Irish.
I mean, it's everything. It's really knowing who you are and just, getting, and and knowing your genealogy, mine was, well, okay, so I started to it started to pique my interest to know a little bit more of where I came from when I started working with this spiritual teacher that came into my path, and that helped me release a lot of darkness from my childhood. I carried a lot, as you remember me as a kid, as a teenager, Sarah, and to help me release a lot of that. And I needed help with that personally, and therapy for me wasn't doing it, and it was just the root that found me and took me, and had me going on that particular in that particular style and fashion. But I did try to find at some point, because my stepmom, I ended up getting very close with my adopted father later on when he left my mother. And
Oh, he
he
did
did
finally. How old were
Yeah.
you when he left her?
when I was 18.
Okay. And then he got remarried?
He got remarried, and I kind of was close with her. And then maybe a few years later, he had a stroke and never could speak again. And if he
Mm.
did, he spoke through language of that was like, wow, very primitive and like sound bites, but he could drive and play chess. And but I made peace with my father through those years,
He
and
was probably another victim in the household in some ways. The way you say
I
he was,
he
not
couldn't.
present, and he's got this hardcore woman in his life that he's
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah,
I don't
I
know.
know that. And
Yeah.
I was mad at him for years for being weak, but
Mm-hmm.
who could stick up to that? That was like a force of whatever. But I feel that yeah, I started and then my stepmother said, I found papers in here of your original last name.
I remember this last
Yeah.
name.
And I found my real name, which was Charlene Caruso.
Oh.
And what was crazy, this has nothing to do with an adoption story, but my teacher, prior to meeting me, used to journal about a girl named Charlene.
Wow.
Yeah,
So when I
that's
asked
crazy.
him, when I started talking to him about this, that I found my name, he says, I've been journaling about you for years.
Wow. Ooh, it gives me
I
chills.
know. That's
I know. I know. So
how did you meet your teacher?
I met him because I had healing from him, because I had such pain in my body and such pain in my soul that I needed something, and I was searching.
Mm-hmm.
And I met this woman who, knew all these healers, but in LA, there's like every kind of people, if they knew what they were dealing with, so much caca.
Yeah.
And but this resonated with me, these Maori healers, and I went and I had a healing, and they did a full-on exorcism on me. And he talked about my mom. He talked about my childhood, and he said, it's time to make peace with it, and I knew it. And
He talked about
he
your birth mom or your adoptive mom? or both?
Adopted mom, and my whole story. He said, you've had a painful childhood. I said, yes. And that's where this negative spirit came into my body, because they pick on the weak ones, these spirits. And if I have any message for adoptees and stuff, to heal on the spiritual level as well, because this is where a lot of the suffering comes in, because these attachments come in, because we don't know who we are. There's a
Floating.
disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. With this kind of, so yeah, a lot of my work with him for 7 years was healing this, I can't describe it, this foreverness feeling, of abandonment, like not knowing my place, like, whoa, that's intense, and feeling this non-connection.
Right.
So,
non-belonging.
yeah. So whenever I get triggered, even to this day, I feel that feeling, but I can anchor myself in. But I feel, it comes in, and it's like, so I have to be my own best friend, a lot of inner child work, is important. And wow, knowing who you are is big time important. But I came to a lot of dead ends with every facet of trying to find my parents. Like they got the name, and I had a private detective, and there was just, roadblock after roadblock.
Did you
So
ever do a DNA test?
yeah, a lot of people that's what I was just gonna say. A lot of people, even like, I'll pay for it for your birthday. Just come on, get it done. Blah, blah, blah. And you know what's funny? They never did. I used to like be, oh, okay, I'm open to it, but I don't feel the need anymore. Once I started to, really deep dive with my teacher and do my genealogy, and travel the timelines through all my, existence. And I went to New Zealand for that, and spent many weeks with him doing healing work. But yeah, I just felt zero need to do it. And and I'm thinking, well, maybe after this podcast I will. It's not that I won't, I just never.
Haven't.
Yes, thank you. And I felt very nervous about doing this, because I felt like, well, everybody did try to, and I didn't, so
No,
No, everybody has, everybody has their different journey and what they need, different needs, different,
yeah.
And there's so many adoptees listening who have not searched and may not ever search,
I mean, good in a sense that, yeah, maybe I'm speaking to someone,
Of course you are.
But I've heard like a lot of stories. I mean, I don't know if I can mention their names or
Of course,
not.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, like, just even, what was Coco? My God,
yeah,
that was so like, she called her up, and then there was met with like click,
yeah.
And that guy you had on recently,
Garth.
that guy? Garth, yeah.
Oh,
I was like, wow, these are powerful stories. And I think I somehow intuitively feel that, there's that, maybe my father, but my mom, no, I feel zero, like it's buried. And maybe I might be bringing up an old wound that they can't handle, I just felt not to do it,
It's your intuition about it.
And it that, if it changes, it changes. If it doesn't, that's where you're at, and you're at peace in your world now. I've known you for a long time, and I see that.
Thank you. Yeah, my soul is at peace. I have pretty much no answer. I mean, no questions about, and don't need any answers from that front today. I can feel I'm pretty healthy. You know, I can feel that Italian stock in me, you know, and I got the native spirit, you know, I feel
It's a
my
good
soul is,
combo, by the way.
yeah, it makes me healthy and strong, and I have such a bad temper.
Well, there.
I, I'm, um, I really, yeah, I have a big temper, but it goes through me like wind, and it goes out the other side, and I'm over it. But,
I too, when we lived together, our tempers came out at each
Oh, I
other.
can
didn't they?
imagine that.
it was so
Neither
funny, but like our
neither one of
passions
us had any healing going on yet.
I was gonna
and
say
so-
unhealed anger.
but the thing is like our passions together too, like we can move a mountain,
yeah.
you know, like when we're like thinking, we're figuring stuff out and talking over girls' night, like stuff gets done. Like we,
Mhm.
you know, the
I
same
miss our
for the,
girls' night.
I do, I really do. It just, you know, it took, you know, just talking with you, and like you always had an ability to listen in a way, and like hear people. Like I think that's so healing. Like you listen in a way where people feel seen and heard. Wow. And these
Mhm.
days, no one
Sarah
listens,
does. Yes. No one
right?
listens. No one listens. Yes.
No one listens, and she
Yeah.
listens, and you listen,
My
Sarah.
dating life says hello.
Oh, that's gonna change, you know, and that was a big thing, you know. I was single for, you know, a long time. And there's a big guys in there, but not really. And and you know, I needed the
Mhm.
right man, and someone wonderful and safe, and
That's what I tell Sarah. There isn't the
that's not going to
no
go
one's
away.
lived up to her yet, in my opinion. So, you know,
Nor
That's
did
a
me,
kind
you
thing to
know.
say.
it's
No
true.
offense to all the guys I've known, but you know, like
To all the guys I've known.
but I needed someone to not go away.
That's right. That
And I
you try to
felt
push
them.
away and they don't leave you. It's like
I needed that
me
because there's been
too.
a
Yeah.
few times if I was with a, a wannabe, you know, he would have been long gone, you know.
Yeah.
I need somebody that's um safe, and it isn't gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to go back real quick to your now that you're freely talking about your story because she died.
Yeah.
When did you had lost touch with her?
Years and years. And you know, and someone like growing up, all she talked about was wanting to die and die and die and astral traveling and dying and dying.
Oh my
And I'm
gosh.
like, she just died in September.
This past September?
Yes.
She lived a
Wow.
long time.
I'm like, what? And you know, I felt a sadness because I was like, she was alone, you know, because I read the what do you call it? The death certificate.
Obituary or the
Obituary.
Yeah. And and I was like, wow, wow, it's all alone. I don't want to die alone. You know, I was like, I don't
No.
want to die alone. I don't want to like be, I want to, you know, it makes me like, I want to love. I want to, you know, have goodness and love, and
Yeah.
not like close off, and not let people in, you know. And I don't want what she had, you know.
How did you find out she died?
I was contacted by the insurance company, and saying that I'm sorry to say, but you know, Jacqueline
Yeah.
Geitzenauer passed, and you know, she didn't leave her money with anybody, but she left my name, so I'm like with next of kin, you know, and so I filled out a form, and it's anybody else, and I mentioned my brother, and yeah, and then became an interaction on the spiritual world realm, and I was like, wow, she really wants me to have this money. It was very touching, and she didn't necessarily apologize, but everything in her existence was humble, and this is on a spiritual plane.
Mm-hmm.
And was genuinely sorry,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt it, and I knew it. and she knew I was goodness. She knew I was goodness all along, and and there was peace.
That's
There was,
I am chill. I have chills thinking about what you're saying. Just I've had that spiritual feeling where, my biological mom, my adopted parents, I feel like I really had this feeling that they all met and I could feel it. After my mom died, I was almost like, wow, they're all there together. I just knew. It makes me cry now, and
oh
there's no judgment in that realm, sort of. It's just you're free of all your this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
I don't know how to explain this stuff, but
yeah,
earthly, it's just a
yeah,
healing place and people can see everything clearly, and that makes me
yeah.
cry.
See it clearly and see it from like not just the human, like it's from the bigger perspective.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to first forgive her and then make peace with her once she left, and
Hmm.
wish her well, and there's nothing between us now except nothing.
That's so
That's really
freeing.
freeing. Yeah. Ooh.
That feels
Sorry,
freeing.
guys. Oops.
We have dog interaction going on, and I had some myself. No,
There
just you
must be
saying
somebody
that,
walking outside. Yes.
just feels freeing. It feels lighter. Like you even just,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
lot.
and that's and I mean, my whole story, it sounds, I don't like to tell my story in a sense. It just is so, it's pretty tragic, but it's not to make people feel sorry, but
No.
to, inspired, and to, um, with genuine, sincere work, um, you can really transform your painful stories,
Hmm. No,
you know.
I'm so glad you're telling your story, because this will resonate with somebody listening that
Yeah,
we
you're
may
not,
not ever know who that
and you're not
person
coming
is.
in as a victim. Woe is me. It's more just like this is what happened, and this is my journey, and this is how I've healed from it. And I think if you could give a message to people, like how can people, like, what would be your advice for healing? It's for some people, it's such a elusive task, right?
And we
It's
should say that Shari is a healer.
Yes, Shari is a healer, and we're going to
Yeah.
obviously give all your info because I've experienced her work and it's incredible. I
Thank you.
used to
My
trade my playlist for healing.
I would like to
I'd
say
burn
that,
Sherry some
that
CDs and she'd work on me.
I would like to say that we need to do that now. Like you and I need to fly and stay with Shari and have some.
She
Hey,
does
come on
remote
out.
work.
Ah,
I do remote work, but this little office that I'm in is like a little, I transformed this little RV. It's awesome. It's like a little,
yeah, I want to come there. I don't want the remote.
horrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just below Sedona, so come on out. Yeah. I mean, I have this, so it's like it's separate from the house, but the message I have is about, you know, it's the personality, but I will say the personality, you will keep going around in circles to the ever to the day you die. It's about reaching higher into the soul, because as a soul, the story that is yours was somehow chosen before,
Mhm.
it's taking that spiritual responsibility. Like you chose all those things and to be adopted, and that's my belief. And
Mhm.
to do the work not just from the psychological point of view, but from, just taking that risk, and going into the soul, and really hearing the soul, walking in the soul, and and daring to 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 do that work, to do that spiritual work, because there you're going to find some big freedoms.
That's really a good word. Daring to do that work.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Turning off that chitter chatter in the brain and listening
yeah,
to your heart centered
yeah.
soul. Yeah.
Soul, spirit,
Yeah.
and for me, it was the only way out.
Mm-hmm.
Because the story is, when sometimes I think about what really, happened to me as a child, I'm like, God, wow, that's like crazy. I would never treat my worst enemy like that.
Yeah.
And to think that the place you found shelter and acceptance is a juvenile facility that helped you. I mean, that's not usually,
Yeah.
I swear they were all angels.
that's nice to hear, actually.
I they were like, some of them were like, rebels, and, they're in their own right, but just kind of doing the job because, like, there was nothing else to do. But the majority of them were people like that were, thank you, God, for this place, because it put me in the right direction,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Celebrated you,
Yeah. And
Saw you. They saw you.
and the kids there were all cool. I was like, this is cool. Like, they played music and we all smoked cigarettes together. As a kid, I used to smoke. Isn't that crazy at 14?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, same.
But I'll tell you one thing. That was one of the biggest changes in my life when I quit smoking.
Yeah.
That's when I really started to go into the adoption wound because of, I don't know about you, Sarah.
Oh yeah.
That need to, it was that one thing that was forever there.
And exactly. That's how I thought of it. It was a reliable thing. It was
Right.
my thing. It was my own thing. No one could take that away from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just the way we smoked. Right? I mean, if I woke up at 3 a.m, I'd light a cigarette. Like,
Totally.
Think of that.
oh,
I've never met in my life anybody who was a hardcore smoker the way I was, except for, like,
me.
old, you.
And maybe my husband now, he was a big smoker.
Oh,
He
was
talks
he?
about, yeah.
I was
It changed
Marlboro
his
Red,
life.
like 2 packs a day, Marlboro Red. Insane.
Insane. Right.
Crazy.
It's great knowing you, and then, like, it's like, yeah, like, wow.
I can't picture either of you doing that now.
I know. People are like, you have such good skin. I'm like, I drank water all those years. I don't know.
Genetics. Thank God.
Yeah.
Genetics. Yeah.
Genetics.
But
So could you we will obviously put this in our show notes, but could you tell people where they can find you?
Oh, okay. Well,
Your website.
my website is help, HELP, the number 4, healing.com. That's my website. And then I'm starting, like, YouTube channel, like, with meditation.
Your meditation channel. Tell
Yeah,
people that.
I think that's, because it's free, and
Yeah.
it's I'm
No,
putting
they'll
it up
love
there.
that.
Yeah, just so people can tap into, goodness. And that's just my name, Shari Geitzenauer. And then I have a blog, dreamcatchershari.com.
That's a great blog.
Yes,
I enjoy it.
Yeah, because it's kind of like storytelling time,
And
it's
the
written very well.
YouTube meditation is great too.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just starting, so it's just like getting my confidence with, going deeper, because it's hard to, like, pick subjects that involve everybody, and don't use words that freak people out, or,
like the universal.
Yeah,
something.
And it's trying to find that universal voice where people can just come to for free, and like, don't even have to get sessions, or just to tap into the energy, because the energy is all about bringing people into just feeling safe, because there's a million channels they can tap into, and, this is safe. We don't want anything from you. Just, listen, like it, tell your friend. Yeah.
I love it.
I'm so glad we finally had you on, and I think, it needed to go this long before we had you on. It's just a perfect moment.
It is. And for us too, because we're growing, right? And I was thinking back how much Sarah and I have grown over the last 2 years in this topic. So it's I feel like every time we have an interview, it's the right time to have that interview.
Yeah,
Like I was excited to get up today, which is rare,
too.
on a Saturday morning this early. I was
Me
like, oh, I'm
too.
going to see Shari and Sarah.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
it's a
Like
good
friends.
day.
I love what you girls are doing. Like it just everyone is just brilliant, and I was like, just know that you're doing such a service. I mean, and I
Thank
feel
you.
both of you like just everything is like the two pillars here. I mean, it's really holding space to heal people.
Thank
This
you.
is
Thank
healing. I'm
you.
like, these girls are healers. This is brilliant.
Thank you.
I love that.
Makes me
I even
emotional.
said a lot of people not adopted can relate to a lot of the stuff being said here.
Yes. I had a call yesterday from a woman in my writing group who I never spoken to on the phone, who wanted to tell Sarah, and I haven't even told her this, that she and her husband are both therapists in their past lives. They're retired now, but listen and have shared it with all these people. And
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
she wanted to tell me, she called to tell me about it. And I was like, oh, thank you. And she's like, and I'm not
See?
adopted, nor do I know anybody adopted, but we're ex-therapists. So I'm sharing it with my therapist community.
Oh,
I
that's
Oh,
thought
great.
Yeah.
That is
it
great.
meant a lot.
Yeah.
well, I
Like,
remember when Sarah first was telling me, like, I just want to like get on the road and tell my adoption story. And she didn't know like YouTube or documentary. And it just kind of morphed into this. And I'm like, wow,
mhm.
congratulations, ladies.
We come
We
up with
do
some good
still want to
ideas
get on the
together.
road. Yes, we do. We do still want to get on the road.
We're going to do a road show.
A road show. Yeah, we can't jump the gun yet, but eventually we're going to get on the
Yep.
road to cities and have people come tell their stories
We
live.
are.
So
Oh, I love that. Well, if you're ever down like in Sedona,
I think
it's
Sedona will be
near
one
the-
of our stops.
wouldn't that be
I
nice? Yeah.
can't wait to have lunch and
I know.
That would be neat,
All
actually.
right. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much, my dear, dear friend. It was a really good way to start the day with you.
oh, so good to see you all.
Thank you, Shari. Thank you for telling your story.
Thank you for having me.